And to end the week, we have some trek ahead of us as we traverse the volcanic slopes of Kilimanjaro for a coffee Imperial Stout from that Dutch master, Kees Brewery. Yes, we're back again in Old Zealand to the town of Middelburg for another of those Kees Imperial Stouts that we love so much. Top of the morning to ya. And with a name like that, you could definitely be forgiven for thinking this is something of an Irish coffee. And as it weighs in a touch under 11% at 10.8, it could very well pack a similar punch. A nice, heavy, enjoyable beer with alcohol, heat and coffee. Tanzanian coffee. Coffee grown on the slopes of Africa's aforementioned highest mountain, Kilimanjaro. And because it grows at height, it grows slow. And as a result, it produces a delicious bean, full of flavour and just so everly subtly sweet, with a lovely body to go with it. Combine all that with Kees craftsmanship, and this should be some treat. Now, I did mention in one of my previous coffee stout reviews, my ability to pick out the finer qualities of each different bean is definitely subpar. But I'm reliably informed that the Tanzanian coffee is a touch milder than its Kenyan cousin, but with a much more velvety body and an ever so subtle hint of blackcurrant. As our last brew contained very noticeable wine and sherry notes, I'm expecting this to really showcase what the Kilimanjaro bean is all about. Hence, I've done a little homework. But all that studying sure has tuckered me out some. So let's just hope this is the shot of espresso I need to keep me going. Let's get pouring. And I definitely learnt my lesson from the previous one. I took this little beaut out a good hour ago, so it should be at that perfect drinking temperature. And it's surprisingly chocolatey on the nose. I was expecting a real coffee kick, but it's actually chocolate that's really dominating the aroma. And there is a noticeable spice to it too. And don't get me wrong, there is a noticeable coffee aroma in there too. It smells more like fresh coffee beans though. And there is just a subtle sweetness in there too. And boy, is it super smooth. It's ever so subtly creamy right up top. And then those coffee notes really blend into the picture. It's a beautiful fruity coffee note. And then it ends with a real espresso bitterness. And there's almost a subtle, dry, powdery, milky note in that finish too. As I said previously, I couldn't tell the difference between a Kenyan or a Costa Rican bean when it comes to coffee. But after just a few sips of this, I am keeping my eyes out for some Tanzanian. As it is just ever so subtly milder, and yeah, you're definitely getting a smoothness and a real fruity vibe off it. It really is velvety smooth. And it is giving absolutely no hint of that near 11% ABV. And we are starting to pick up some of those chocolate malts now. They're really starting to embolden themselves in those middles. And it's resulting in a much sweeter beer all round, much sweeter than I had been anticipating from, say, a coffee Imperial Stout. I've said it before and I will definitely keep saying it again. If you're in the market for good Impy Stouts, you can do a hell of a lot worse than these guys. And not only is the brew a beaut, the can is quite stunning too. Although their cans are very uniform and pretty basic, I do just love the colouring here. And now we're down into the beer. That body, it's getting thicker and stickier and chewier. And the brew itself is getting ever so slightly sweeter too. we're starting to get some creamy, fudgy notes really dominating in there now. And it has remained just so beautifully balanced from that very first sip. So this sure was some education, and not in beer, as I think we've just found my new blend of coffee. But as far as the beer goes, what else can I say? Those Kees lot have done it again. Smooth, velvety, surprisingly sweet, a lovely chocolate malty backbone, a creamy fudginess in the bottom ends, and of course that smooth and fruity coffee. All combined for an absolute dream. I genuinely am at a slight loss for words. The only wisdom left to drop: breweries of the UK. If you're looking for someone to collab on an Impy Stout, make sure Kees is the first call. They have got these down to a fine art. And although I keep meaning to pick up more of their other styles, it just isn't gonna happen.